Hey everybody, it's Sam from Wrestling Overtime with another Raves and Rants review of Impact Wrestling on May 26, 2020. Now, I have to be honest with you guys. I am so glad that a listener wrote in and told me, hey, you need to start watching Impact Wrestling. I can't thank them enough. I know every Impact episode, you guys hear that. But I am really enjoying Impact Wrestling. I'm actually probably enjoying it more than Raw and SmackDown. Maybe more than Raw and SmackDown put together. It is enjoyable, and they actually have stories that progress, that they actually work on week after week after week, and it actually progresses. And I'm enjoying their tournament. Their number one contenders tournament, which is what we start off with. Semifinals are tonight, and the first semifinal is Ace Austin versus Hernandez. Now, honestly, I didn't think from what I had seen in my past that Ace Austin would defeat Rhino. But he did last week, and I was not expecting him to be here. I was expecting to get Hernandez versus Rhino and have two big powerhouses going up against each other. And we don't. We have Hernandez, who is a little bit older and has a tendency to get tired in longer matches, against Ace Austin, who is a young up-and-comer and has a little bit more of a high-flying style. Austin tried to do some power moves in the beginning, and Hernandez basically just stood there and looked at him. It was actually pretty funny. And then Hernandez decided to show him some power moves and took over for a little while. But Ace Austin kept at it. And like I said, as the match went on, you could see Hernandez kind of get a little tired, and Ace Austin connected with the Fold for the win, and he heads to the number one contenders match. Now, when I sit down and think about it, can he beat Tessa Blanchard? No, I don't think so. He shouldn't. I don't believe that he has the star power, the moveset, the smoothness, the promo ability that she has. And so, no, I don't think that he should if he would win. But, I don't know. Impact may be able to make that work. We go backstage, and Chris Bay is talking to Johnny Swinger. And, of course, these two have been talking backstage for quite a few weeks about different things, and then them happening later in the show, and that's what he is doing now. He talks to Swinger about being in his corner later tonight, and Johnny Swinger, he's old school, and he's pretty funny. He talks about how he's got some wrapped quarters and some powder and all this stuff in his pockets that he can always give to Chris Bay for him just to let him know if he wants to do something to put the match in his favor or whatever. And Chris Bay just kind of looks at him like he's crazy and says, hey, we'll just play it by ear. And Swinger's comment is, oh, we're going to go old school. Oh, okay, I see how it is. So, after that, the North, we see them heading to the Diener compound. This is the week that they are supposed to take on the Dieners in Canada. The North has agreed to meet them at the compound and actually take them on. Ethan Page is making fun of everything. As they drive, he's making fun of things out the window. And then they get out of the car and they see the sign that says Diener Compound. And Josh Alexander even gets in on it, commenting that they have spelled compound wrong. It's just a typical The North segment, and it is funny. Now, the way Impact does things is they don't tell you the whole story in one shot. So we're kind of left hanging with them at the entrance, and this story will continue later on in the episode. But they go to Michael Elgin, and he, has to mention last week. He can't talk about his match tonight and being in the semifinals and how wonderful that is and how, he's a step further in his goal. No. He has to start off talking about Sami Callihan and what all he did and how he beat him last week and everything. And then he kind of mentions that he's going to take care of Trey tonight because he believes that he will be the number one contender until he beats Tessa Blanchard. And that seems to be all it's about for Michael Elgin is, once he got past Sami Callihan, his main thoughts are on Tessa Blanchard. And you can tell something's going to happen. So we see Chris Bay then come out with Johnny Swinger. And he's taking on Cousin Jake of the Deaners. Well, I finally learned that Cousin Jake is a Deaner. I remember only started watching this night 2 of the pay-per-view, The Rebellion. So I haven't seen Cousin Jake since then. I haven't seen him since Rebellion when he took on Joseph P. Ryan. So I had no clue his backstory. I didn't know he was a Deaner. I should have guessed by how he looked and was dressed, but did not know that. Cousin Jake starts off showing his power, and I really felt like this match, it wasn't a carbon copy, but I almost felt like I was watching the same match as the Ace Austin Hernandez match. Because Chris Bay is like Ace Austin as far as being young, a lot of action, a lot of different move sets and everything, whereas Cousin Jake is more about power. And I really felt like they shouldn't have put these two matches basically back to back. Yes, I know they had a bunch of promos in between, but they should have put a match in between them because I really did feel like I was watching a lot of the same match. So it was just a matter of time before Chris Bay took over and Bay ended up connecting with the Famouser and then a final finesse for the win. Now, after the match, Johnny Swinger got in the ring and started to attack Cousin Jake. Now, Chris Bay at first, kind of looked at him and watched, but then he helped out beating him up. So Willie Mack ended up running down to the ring to help Cousin Jake out. And like we've said in previous episodes, you can see they are setting this up for Chris Bay versus Willie Mack, probably at their next pay-per-view, and that Johnny Swinger is going to put the match one way or another. He's going to be a distraction to somebody. He's going to get involved somehow, some way, and he's going to throw the match one way or another. He's going to be the cause of it. Then we go backstage, and we have Gabby talking to Rohi Raju about what's next for him. He immediately starts in about how there's many wrestlers at Impact Wrestling that lose one week and then they're in a title match the next. and how unfair it is, and they don't treat him like that, and he has nothing that is next for him. So Chase Stevens walks up, and Raju wants to know why an original TNA guy thinks that they can all just take his spotlight. Well, Chase looks at him like he's lost his mind, which he basically has, and says, why are you whining? All you're doing is whining around and stuff. So Raju challenges Chase to a match next week. And then he walks off, and Chase looks at Gabby and is like, how did a guy that's not even getting paid to be here get roped into a match next week? And so, kind of amusing that that happened, but it does seem like a lot of TNA guys are, coming back. Then we get our women's division match. The Knockouts come on board, and we see a rematch, which I was a little disappointed at. I know that Impact is taping some matches, so I guess I'm left to make the assumption that there's not very many knockouts available. But we're getting a rematch of Kimberly versus Havoc. And while it was a good match last time, it's not a match that I really need to see again. Now, they're portraying that it needs to be a rematch because Kimberly used brass knuckles last time when the referee wasn't looking and hit Havoc. And according to Madison Rain, she's going to do it again. But Kimberly goes hard after Havoc. And Havoc ends up slamming Kimberly into the turnbuckle and then hits her with a spine buster. So Kimberly actually rakes her hand down Havoc's face and goes to get her brass knuckles that she has stuck over in a corner. Nevaeh, we're not real sure where she was, but anyway, she runs into the ring and stops Kimberly with the brass knuckles and ends up throwing them out of the ring. Referee DQs Havoc, so Kimberly wins again. And then both of them beat up on Kimberly, and afterwards we see Nevaeh and Havoc touch their heads together. The thing is I still don't know the story on them. I don't know if they know each other from Impact from before, and I'm supposed to know about it, or they knew each other from the independent circuit or another promotion or WOW or something. If you know, write me at wrestlingovertime@gmail.com. Kind of fill me in. I am interested in knowing the backstory of Nevaeh and Havoc. They have gotten me intrigued and pulled me into that part of the storyline. Do I care about Kimberly beating Havoc 2 times in a row because of the brass knuckle thing? No. Their matches aren't that good. But I am intrigued with the whole Nevaeh Havoc storyline and what is going on with them. So then backstage, we see more knockouts. Again, wish they would have separated them and not had like a knockout segment or whatever. But we see Tasha Steelz and Kiera Hogan confronting Kylie Ray, smiling Kylie. And they're basically being kind of mean to her and yelling at her. Susie hears them and tells them they need to leave Kylie Ray alone. Because remember, Kylie Ray bumped into Susie, and Susie kind of made friends with Kylie. Well, Steele and Hogan end up attacking both of them. And as they are, Su Yang flashes on the screen a couple times. And so that intrigues me. Why is Su Yang flashing on there? We know Kylie Ray doesn't have anything to do with her, so it's got to be Susie. Was she somehow calling her? Was she thinking about her? What was that portraying? Is Su Yang showing up? And if so, I think Tasha and Kira are in some serious, serious trouble. Anyway, we go back to the Diener compound. Now, the North have arrived, and they are welcomed by a member of the family. They never say his name. Just a little weird. And the North is left pretty perplexed with them. He runs off, and they drive up to, I guess, the compound. Like they said, it does look like a barn. And so then we go backstage where Joseph P. Ryan is talking to the Christ brothers. And Joseph P. Ryan, Joey Ryan, I slip and call him Joey Ryan all the time. He tells them that he has a match with Unwell Steve. Now, I didn't get it at first, but one of the Chris brothers says, "You mean Crazy Steve?" And of course, Joseph P. Ryan has to correct them and say, you don't say the C word, but it's offensive. And so he tells them that they still have a lot to learn. So he invites Dave and Jake to come down to ringside next week as he's taking Unwell Steve on. And they agree to it. So we go back to Canada to see the North. And the North is taking on Cody Deaner and Wheels for the Impact Tag Team Championship. And like I said, they're outside of a barn, and they knock, and no one answers. And as they're getting ready to walk away and, call it a victory, the Deaners open the barn door. They realize that, according to Ethan Page, there's about 19 of them in there, and he makes it very clear that they're only taking on 2. So, this starts, and it is Impact's version of a cinematic match, which seems to be all the rage now. But it's a comedy match, basically. And it is done very well. If you take it as a comedy match, if you take it as a serious match and try to compare it to what, WWE or AEW or anything like that has done, then you're probably going to be very disappointed and griping and saying it's garbage and all this other stuff. But I think if you take it for what it is, because the North has been involved the last couple weeks in a lot of comedy stuff, they have been in this, on this Tuesday night, this episode, up until this point, and you really take it as a comedy match, you'll see that it's pretty funny and it's pretty entertaining. I really loved, and I do mean loved, Josh Alexander and Cody Deaner at one point going all out and making fun of the WrestleMania 36 Edge versus Orton match. As they're fighting across the Deaner, land, they come upon this tractor trailer truck. And of course they see a ladder, which is what happened with Edge and Randy Orton, they decide to put the ladder up against the truck and climb up there and have a fight on top of the truck, on top of the tractor trailer truck. And he DDTs it, or pile drivers him, and leaves him up there. Josh Alexander climbs down and takes the ladder down so Cody Deaner can't get down. It is hilarious because if you go back and you listen to my WrestleMania 36 episode, when that match happened, I was hollering at the TV saying, why are you putting a ladder? Why are you climbing up there? That is stupid. There's no point in that. And at one point during the Randy Orton Edge match, Randy Orton climbs down, and instead of taking the ladder away, he gets chairs and climbs back up. And so this was just a comedy match, and it was funny. They end up back in the barn, and the Iceman, the Norse friend that you've seen before, ends up low blowing Wheels, and he is laying on the mat, and Iceman unzips his jacket to show that he's also a referee. So the North end up covering Wheels to keep their titles. I know that all of you were worried that they were going to lose them, but it was a good match. It was shot funny. I enjoyed it. But then we go backstage and we see TJP and Falala Bala griping, basically. Talking about how they have been following the North's escapades up there in Canada, and that they know that they've been defending the belts. Falala makes fun of who they've been defending it against and everything, but they start talking about how they want to be the number one contenders when the North come back down to the United States. The Rascals, and it was Wentz and Dez, come over and say, wait a minute, you guys aren't the number one contenders because we beat you last time. Well, TJP says, no, it's 1-1. We beat you guys the first time. And we can have the rubber match. We can go at it a third time next week for the number one contenders of the tag team championships to take on the North when they get back down here. And of course the Rascals, agree. They go to commercial, and when they come back, we're up in the treehouse. Now, I am going to go ahead and talk about my ignorance. I'm not real sure about the treehouse. I need your help. I need you to write me at wrestlingovertime@gmail.com. Because I really didn't understand, are they doing pot or drugs up in the clubhouse or treehouse? Because that's kind of what it appeared. But they were talking and hanging out before Trey's semifinal match. So I really wasn't sure. And then Moose showed up. And he had his TNA belt, and they were kind of making fun of him. And he says that Trey should be going after his championship instead of going after Tessa's Impact Championship. Well, Trey is really confused and said, I thought the TNA Championship thing was just a one-time thing. What are you doing with the belt? And they ended up right after that showing a very good video package. They were introducing Deanna Purrazzo, and she is the virtuoso. Now, they just said she was coming soon, so I'm not 100% if she's going to show up next week, but that she is coming soon. I am looking forward. The times that I saw her in NXT, I was kind of impressed with her. I was shocked that WWE didn't keep her. I'm glad that she has signed with Impact, and I am really looking forward to actually seeing what she can do. Then we go to the bar, and we have kind of what we've had the last couple weeks with John E. Bravo and Rosemary flirting. Rosemary being real seductive to Johnny Bravo. And Johnny is venting a little bit about how Valkyrie treats him and what all she makes him do. And Rosemary kind of tells him that she's now in his corner. Which, with Rosemary and her background, I'm not necessarily sure that that's a good thing. But Johnny Bravo has Rosemary in his corner now. So we'll see how that goes with Valkyrie. Finally, we get the main event for tonight, and we get Michael Elgin versus Trey. I think when the tournament started, personally, I was rooting for Sami Callihan. When he showed up as hurt as he did in the first round, then I thought, yeah, I probably want Michael Elgin to win and take on Tessa. I think that will be a show of her quickness and her mindset, what kind of moves she does and how she puts them together against Elgin's Pyre. But I think this is a preview match because Trey also has a quick moveset and does a lot of action moves, but he's more high-flying. And this turned out to be a really good match. I told you last episode how impressed I was with Trey. Well, I think after this match, I'm even more impressed with him. Because Elgin showed off his power and his control. And while he was doing a lot of those moves and slamming and controlling Trey actually showed his ability to sell. And he actually made me feel like he was in pain. And he made me feel for him. He showed that he could take a lot of what Elgin was dishing out, and his pain level was fairly high. Elgin gets ready to do the Elgin bomb to put Trey away when up on the big screen, Sami Callihan's ICU logo popped up and the lights went out. And he is known for being able to control things or tune into things that he is not supposed to. So Elgin gets pretty distracted looking around for Sami when the lights come back on. So Trey quickly took advantage of that and rolled Elgin up for the win. So it is going to be next week. Trey versus Ace Austin in the finals to take on Tessa Blanchard. Now, I don't know whether they set this up thinking, yes, one of these guys can beat Tessa if we need him to be, but Tessa can beat either one if needed to be also. They are more her size, more her moveset and how she does things. So it could be a good match, whoever she ends up taking on. After the match, we see Michael Elgin losing his mind and throwing everything that he's getting his hands on after the match and basically throwing a fit about Sami Callihan. I look for him possibly to want to talk to management next week about Sami Callihan interfering and getting them to try to do something about it. I don't know that they necessarily will, but I do look for him to do that and to do that fairly soon. So, what did you think about this version of Impact? I thought it was pretty good. And like I said, I am really liking Impact Wrestling. I'm looking forward to next week already. However, they stated that now they're doing what is called Impact Aftershock, which is going to be on Impact's YouTube channel right after the episode. I guess they did it last week, and I totally missed it. I didn't realize that they were doing that. I didn't see any kind of commercial for it or it running on the bottom of the screen. Didn't hear, Josh or Madison mention it or anything. But this week, I plan on watching it and seeing what it is. What is Aftershock? And who's on it and what do they talk about and everything. So for you guys that watched it, let me know what you thought of it and if you'll continue to watch it. And like I said, I'm going to watch it and I will let you know. You guys hit me up on Wrestling Overtime's Twitter page or on our Facebook page, or write me at wrestlingovertime@gmail.com. And like I always say, I am working overtime to give you what you want. And so I will be talking to you soon. Next up will be news and updates, since it will be an off period between NXT and AEW. So look forward to talking to you guys soon.